Scientists call this tree Acacia nilotica. It's a tree that grows plentifully here in the hilly areas of northern Tanzania. Olobone Mapi calls it the Olkiloriti. And to him it's more than a tree. It's a chance to save the eyesight of a child in his village. Olobone Mapi is a traditional healer of the Maasai tribe. He walks in these hills often, looking for the trees and plants and shrubs that he uses in his healing. And as he walks, he teaches what he knows to his son, who someday will take his place as a leader of the extended family. He tells his son that all of the medicinal plants he has seen he should learn by heart. Don't let anybody take the knowledge away from you. Share the knowledge with other people, but be in control. Hundreds of kilometers away, Kapowa Kisawani is organizing his family members for a day of work in the fields with their cattle and goats. He pays close attention to each animal, knows when it's time to change grazing patterns, knows when it's time to give medicine. He decides which animals will be bred, which animals will be sold, and in doing so, he helps determine the genetic makeup of the next generation. This land, in recent years, has suffered from lack of rain. If he chooses to breed the smallest animals and sell the largest, because there's a shortage of grass and he knows the land cannot support large animals, he's moving his herd in a specific direction. With each generation of animals, he leaves his imprint on the genetic mix. These animals can survive when there's very little grass. Also, they can survive other problems caused by water shortages and drought. He's never met Olobone Mapi, but still they are connected. They're both Maasai. They both have inherited the wealth of knowledge that's been acquired and passed down from generation to generation. Their Maasai ancestors nurtured these animals and the plants they needed, just as the ancestors of other African ethnic groups experimented with countless combinations of crops, saving the seeds from year to year. That's why today, rural people throughout southern Africa have expertise in animal and plant breeding and medicine making. This expertise has helped their people survive the centuries. And now, that expertise has the long-term potential to help other people in other parts of the world, just as it helps their own village. It's information he says he's willing to share. Use this for children who have a fever. Boil it and make a steam. Olobone Mapi says his power to heal comes from his father's teaching and from God. In his village, the women have different responsibility for healing. When he finishes grinding and drying and combining his medicines, the women administer them. They give treatment to the animals. And to the children. Olobone Mapi's wife says she learned from her mother and from some other experienced women in the village, starting when she was very young. Now she passes her knowledge to younger women. I can only treat the sick children. I cannot prevent the disease. But I share what I know. Getting enough food to eat and staying healthy have been two major concerns of humanity since the beginning of time. And it hasn't changed just because there are now concrete cities and global communication. In fact, it's become even more important because there are more people to feed, people who have the potential to live longer because of improvements in food production and health care. So these medicines from the millennia are attracting a lot of attention. And so are these indigenous animals that have been bred by local people and adapted to their environments. Indigenous animals that have developed resistance to local diseases, that need less food to survive, that produce healthy offspring in difficult conditions. Now, because of modern technology, other breeds, even on the other side of the planet, may be able to benefit from these adaptive traits. In these days of globalization and market economies, these animals and these crops and these medicines can have value that the local people who used and nurtured them for centuries never considered. From potatoes that are sought after for their taste, to millet laced with thorns that keep the birds away, from sheep that rely on fat stored in their tails to survive the dry season, to donkeys that can digest food with very little water. From those animals and plants to these trees, with leaves and bark and even roots that can be used in medicines. With the application of modern scientific techniques to the traditional seeds and formulas, some have potential to make a contribution to global health and food security. Under this tree in southwest Zimbabwe, a group of village elders has gathered. Their visitor today is Joe Matanwanika. He represents a project sponsored by the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, a project that is promoting awareness of the value of indigenous knowledge. He's brought with him a colleague who knows the local language. He wants to learn from these villagers about their traditions and about the different responsibilities of village women and men. He asks them, for instance, what they do if children are late cutting their teeth. And the answer? Rub their gums with pumpkin seeds. He wants to know why they choose to plant their traditional seeds rather than buying improved seeds in the market.
I think if we said that this, you cannot grow this anymore, and you should all be buying seed, we can give you free seed. What would you say?
So,
they say they would resist. They don't want the free seed because their forefathers used the traditional seed. Then he tells them that city people don't eat this anymore.
That's why you are weak.
Although they laugh, they're also serious. Rural people respect their local crops and their local animals. Agnes Ngwabi carries enormous responsibility at her family farm. Her husband has a job in the city, so for the most part it's her job to care for the animals and crops. She has many varieties growing in her plots, grown from seeds supplied or suggested by the local agriculture extension agent. But she also has a tiny area hidden in a far corner of her fields. This is where she grows crops from her own seeds. These are the seeds that she chooses to save from year to year. In this part of the world, it's the women who have almost always had the responsibility for saving and managing the seeds for the family's crops. She knows very well that these seeds don't mature as fast as the commercial seeds, but she also knows that they have exactly what she wants. They taste good, they're bigger than the seeds you buy, and I trust them to grow well here. This is private tradition. Rural people who want to appear modern still can't discard the taste of their past, so they tend to hide their traditional crops.
Okay.
You get people who get to see their priorities.
Joe Matanwanika is well aware of this desire to maintain tradition. He's also aware of the value of this traditional knowledge in a modern society. He sees it as a delicate balance.
They are aware of the fact that they can get improved seed, but that doesn't mean they should get rid of their own traditional seed for a number of reasons. They're quite emphatic about that. So that is an encouragement. In this way, we're keeping the diversity of their materials going, and they actually need that themselves. We don't need to remind them that.
So there are two questions to be considered here. First, there's the question of how to preserve the traditional crops and animals that have been developed and refined for thousands of years by local people to suit their local environment. But there is also the question of how to ensure that the people who have this knowledge benefit from what they know.